Welcome to section 2 of Psalm 119, the ordinances. The last section, number 1, was the oracles, and where we saw in the New Testament, there was only at one place towards the end where it mentioned in churches to speak as oracles of God in the church. But ordinance now is the second least used word in the New Testament, and an ordinance is a statute sort of like we would have today. Where I live in Newport, Oregon, we have ordinances covering driving, automobiles and everything, transportation. Then we have an ordinance for construction. You can only do certain things. These ordinances are written down for guidance. You can't, you need to go by them. There is ordinances for inheritance. If you die, then who gets your remaining things that you have? And that carries over into the Old Testament with the ordinance for inheritance. But actually, it's interesting that in Genesis 26:5, it says, "Because Abraham, your father, obeyed my voice and guarded my orders and my commandments and my ordinances and my laws." So there was all of these things before Moses. Now, we don't have these written down as a statute like we do with the ones from Moses, but I thought that was very interesting. I look at today, the church, we also are sons of Abraham, and we don't have all these ordinances written down. None, actually. As we go through here, we'll see in the Old Testament how it's used and then go into the New Testament. But the ordinances with Moses began in Exodus when the sons of Israel left Egypt. And in Exodus 15:25, it says, "And he put it into the water," his staff, I believe, "and the water was sweetened. There God established with him, Moses, ordinances and judgments, and he tested him." Now, the word ordinance, dikeoma, is the word, the Greek word number 1345. But if it is the form of dikeoma or dikeomatos, it's justice. It's not an ordinance. Dikeomata are ordinances, and dikeoma is a just thing or a right action. So if you go through that word, 1345, not every place the 1345 appears is it always an ordinance. A little bit confusing, but I hope I cleared it up somewhat. So dikeomata are ordinances. And we have ordinances in the Old Testament, Exodus 21, ordinance concerning servants, and betrothals of a father betrothing a daughter, or a livestock if something happens. And then in Numbers 15:16, we have ordinances concerning the foreigner. Basically what it says, the ordinances for the foreigner and the one living, the native born, are the same. Then we have the ordinances of inheritance, Numbers 27:11 and Ruth 4:7. And like I mentioned, that's even today we have ordinances of inheritance in our judicial code. There was ordinances for a husband and wife, an ordinance between a father and a daughter, who the father could give the daughter to, and so forth. That's in Numbers 30. Ordinances concerning war, Numbers 31. Ordinances of judgment in Numbers 35. Ordinances of the priest, 1 Samuel 2:13. the ordinances of the king, 1 Samuel 8:9. Ordinances of captives at war, 1 Samuel 27:11, and articles of the spoils of war in 1 Samuel 30:25. Now, in the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy 6:24, it gives us an explanation somewhat of these ordinances, how we deal with them. It says, "And the Lord gave charge to us to do all these ordinances, to fear the Lord our God, that good might be to us all the days, that we should live even as today." And in Exodus 20:21, Ezekiel 20:21, it says, "And my ordinances they guarded not to do them, which if a man does them, he shall live by them." So we see then many places after the kings or during the kings and all the prophets of people, of the Jews, not doing the ordinances as they were told to do. And then even in the future, there will be ordinances for Israel. It talks about in Ezekiel 43:11, where the city on the high mountain, which I believe is on Mount Meron, will reinstitute the law differently than what was given to Moses on Sinai. And it says there in Ezekiel 43:11, "And you shall diagram before them, and they shall keep all my ordinances and all my orders, and shall do them." So again, we have the ordinances. Even in the future, when the last 10 chapters of the book of Ezekiel shows. There are other mentions of ordinances with other peoples. Israel to Baal, they were not good, how Israel kept their ordinances, the ordinances to Baal, but not to God. And that was Hosea 13:1. And then how Omri and Ahab made up their own ordinances, and that was in Micah 6:16, not from God. Same thing with Israel to Baal. Now, jumping into the New Testament, the first mention of ordinances was with Elizabeth and Zacharias, father of John the Baptizer or the Immerser, and it mentions them going in the commandments and the ordinances of the Lord in Luke 1:6. Now, these were the ordinances from the Old Testament, of course. And Romans 1:25-32 talks about the ones who changed over the truth of God into the lie, while recognizing the oracles of God. But it doesn't. That's not something that tells us as Christians that we are to do any ordinance there. It's just saying how the Jews at that time didn't follow the ordinances. In Romans 2:26, it says, "If then the uncircumcised keep the ordinances of the law, shall not his uncircumcision be considered circumcision?" So basically, keeping the law, the ordinances, doesn't say anything about the Christians, but if people did do this at the time of the law that were not Jews, but the Jews didn't do them, who was really keeping God's ordinances? The person that was uncircumcised. In Romans 8:4, it says that the ordinance of the law should be fulfilled in us, to the ones not walking according to flesh, but according to spirit. So now we see that the ordinance is fulfilled in us, the ones not walking according to the flesh, but walking according to the spirit. And the flesh would be more or less, if you were a Jew, going along with the ordinances, but not if you're going with the Spirit of God. We don't have any ordinance. It doesn't mention any in the New Testament, except in Hebrews 9:1-10. It talks about that, and it says, the first tent had indeed then also ordinances of service, and the worldly holy place, the tabernacle. It was consisting only in foods and drinks and diverse immersions and ordinances of flesh, until a time of straightening rests. That's the key right there. The time that Jesus came, the ordinances arrested for us, the Christians. Now, the question would be, well, to the Jew, if you're a Jew and you're a Christian, do you follow the ordinances? No, I don't believe you should. And because you've been freed from the things of the law, you're now tied to Jesus Christ, and his he doesn't have anything in his any ordinances that I can think of except loving one another. And it mentions the commandments, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, we'll jump up again like we did the last video, and we see now here in the Apostolic Bible Polyglot app, I think it's just the apostolicbibleapp.com. Then in Psalms 119, it begins in verse 6. I'll read a few of them like I did in the last section. And once we go through the whole psalm, you'll see all of them. And it begins, ought that my ways be straightened out, to keep your ordinances. So this is what the writer wants to do, is to do what the things the ordinances had, for everything that God had written for these people in the scroll. And then your ordinances in verse 9, your ordinances I will keep. You should not abandon me unto exceedingly. Verse 13, blessed are you, O Lord, teach me your ordinances. 17, I shall meditate on your ordinances. I shall not forget your words. So now see there, it's tying in the words to the ordinances. To us Christians, let's put words in place of ordinances. For even rulers sat and spoke ill against me, but your servant meditated in your ordinances or words. In verse 25, for even your testimonies are my, and testimonies I believe is the next section. For even your testimonies are my meditation, and your ordinances are my advice. Your words are my advice. So we can go through the Word of God. We have the New Testament. These people didn't. And the last one here I'll go through, and then we'll close this and go into the next section. My ways I declared, and you heeded me. Teach me your ordinances or your words. Our next section is on the testimony. Right here we had that, number 3142.